capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number? Or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know, Zach.
It's a tough one. I
It's
know.
really hard.
And maybe comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. So tonight we are going to be continuing on with Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. We're in pretty much the darkest chapter so far. This is chapter 9. It is on U.S. slavery. Probably the worst thing that America has ever done. Although, I mean, genocide of the native peoples is pretty far up there too. But it not being a contest, it's definitely one of the worst things the U.S. has ever done. So it's a very difficult chapter to get through. We listened to a lot of very hard stories last time about it, and there's going to be more tonight, I'm sorry to say, but it is important to know. It's important to understand where this country came from, what has molded it, what continues to shape it in many ways. So yeah, that's why we're, trying to just keep our eyes open and absorb what information the book is giving us. In a little bit lighter news, you may see that I have a lovely new background. I finally took the time to assemble some posters and stuff like that. That one of Che, my brother, gave me many years ago. His class actually took a trip to Cuba in high school. That picture's probably getting close to 15, 20 years old. So that actually is from Cuba, painted by one of the locals. And the rest of them are so far posters. I had this poster book of posters to support the Green New Deal. And I liked quite a few of them. Thought they would make some nice wall art. So I thought, hey, what better way to jazz up the background and also put a few more messages out there while I'm at it. So yeah, these are all from Green New Deal. And if you recall, Green New Deal was not just something that Democrats cooked up. It in fact, let me turn down the volume. It in fact was first proposed by the Green Party. So it's with that spirit that I take these messages here, especially ones about universal housing, revitalizing cities, changing dominant forms of transportation away from the car, all that sort of thing. Let's see, I'm just trying to enter. Yeah, we'll do Stream Manager from the phone. I like to be able to monitor chat even when I'm not looking at the main screen. I'm making all kinds of noise. Apologize for that. All right. Well, I think we're just going to get right into it. Oh, actually, no, we're not. Before we start, I do want to mention that voting is now open for the 3rd annual Lefties Awards. We are keeping up the tradition. This is going to be our 3rd year running. We used to do it around Thanksgiving time, but it just came to be too much work during an already busy time of the season. And since I tend to do a lot of it myself, and that's not downplaying the amazing volunteers that we've had in the past, but I do tend to put together the reel for it and host the show and all that stuff, tally the votes, make the voting ballot, so on and so forth. I thought it'd be better just to wait till the new year, and that way too we can look back on all of 22 and all the various mediums that leftists have created in and nominate our favorites. Hopefully the favorite that you nominate will win. good luck to all the nominees. But no matter win or lose, they will get every nomination will get a clip in the award show itself. So even if nobody votes for you, if you want to boost, this is your chance to boost any leftist creator or project or organization that you really care about that just doesn't have enough eyes on it. And this will be a way to get it some more eyes, win or lose. And really, we call it an award show, but it's not as though you get anything other than a custom drawing of you accepting the award. And then I guess just recognition. So there's no cash prize. There's no, we don't mail out statuettes or anything like that. It's more about just getting eyes on leftist creators that don't have it now, or that for whatever reason deserve more recognition. So I'm going to put the link to that. All the voting is taking place. All the nominations are taking place on Facebook right now. The final award show night will be broadcast here on Bread Theory live, only on Twitch, in fact, because that way we're not going to have to worry about DMCA. We can play music from the artists that get nominated without fear of getting copyright strikes. And then eventually I will upload the recording to YouTube. And, at that point, if they want to, if anyone wants to claim it for music or whatever we use, that's fine. I don't really care about making money on the video itself. I'm not even monetized on YouTube. That is probably the place where I have my least amount of followers. But here's the link. So if you head on over to Facebook, all you got to do is reply to that post. There are, let's count how many categories there are. There's quite a few this year, in fact. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 categories this year, which I think is more than last year. I think last year we had maybe 25. So it's expanding, it's growing. We're trying to include more categories. We're, trying to keep things a little bit lighter this year too. We have things like Best Dunk of 2022, Most Hilarious Fall Off of 2022, Biggest Leftist Glow Up, stuff like that. And we'll still have the more solemn awards like In Memoriam and new this year's Leftist Lifetime Achievement Award. And then we have the various platforms and media that you would look for your leftist content. Everything from Best Leftist Database to book to movie, songs, TikTok creators, streamers. This year all the streamers are just included in together in one category, and then we'll have video creators be the other category. Because again, I'm just one man, and I don't want to make the award show last all night long. So there's only so much room for things. And this year we've combined all of the visual arts, aside from movies, into one visual arts category. Things like that. Actually, you know what? I should even share the page so you can take a look at it yourself while we're sitting here. That would probably have made a lot more sense to begin with, but that's all right. You can roll with it. So there you have it. Left Signal Boost is one of the groups where you can vote, and it is being hosted by Left Signal Boost TV, which Bread Theory is a member of. It's a collective of various leftist content creators. We all post to the same spot on Facebook and just try to fight back against the algorithm that boosts right-wingers like Ben Shapiro and the like. What's up?
I was looking at my buddy. He looks struggling.
Yeah, that vine over there is he's not doing well. I think he lost a lot of leaves in the move.
He's struggle bussing.
He is struggle bussing.
It's hard to be a plant.
It is. It is.
You know what it's not hard to do?
What is it not hard to do?
To subscribe to Fred Theory on Twitch.
Flawless execution of that segue there. I mean, I would never push anyone to spend money they don't have.
But if you're able
But if you are able and
and
willing,
willing, it's much appreciated.
it would definitely be much appreciated if you subscribed.
Because
And Twitch is definitely the place to do it. That's the place where I'm most monetized. I'm patting your hand. What are you getting me to look for?
Wow.
I'm not doing that.
You out of your...
So the disembodied voice that you're hearing right now is the lovely Amanda. And after she takes her shower, hopefully she will be on.
Yeah.
That is the hope. But yeah, already we have a lot of nominations. We got
It's me. I'm
45 people have nominated at least one, and a lot of people have nominated in virtually every category. But we can always use more. Like I say, all you got to do is nominate, and then that person, that creation, whatever it is, will get a spot in the award show. Get a little, 7-second highlight where you can show what the work looks like and sounds like and all that sort of thing. So it should be a good time. And the award show is going to happen sometime in February, probably mid-February, probably the weekend before or after Valentine's Day weekend. So let's see what weekend would either of those be. Let me pull up the calendar here. So we'll probably go after. Probably do it, say, 21st, or actually, we might do it Friday. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it Friday night. Might get better attendance that way. Friday the 28th, Saturday the 21st. Probably going to be one of those nights in February. We'll do it right around, say, we'll probably start 7 o'clock Central Standard, or Central Time, that is. Oh, I'm looking at January anyway. Disregard. So let's see, the 14th is Tuesday. That makes probably Valentine's Day weekend is going to be the 11th and 12th then. Usually it's celebrated closest weekend. So instead, mark your calendar for the 17th or 18th, one of those 2 days. If you have a preference, let me know as well. But that'll probably be the time in February that we do the award show. And voting is open until the 20th of this month. So you still have just under 2 weeks left or I'm sorry, the nomination process open till the 20th, and then just before midnight on the 20th, that closes up, and on the 21st at midnight, the voting will open. Oh, actually, I think I scheduled it for Monday night to give me some time to assemble all the nominations into it. But anyway, the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of this month is when voting will start. Voting will run through the end of this month, so it will close 11:59 Central Time, January 31st, and then that gives me a good couple weeks to assemble everything else, pull together anyone who wants to co-host. If you yourself would like to co-host, shoot me a message on whatever platform you're seeing this. It's a fun time, and it definitely helps share the burden if other people are involved. We've had a lot of great people in the past help with this, so hoping for more of the same this year. All right, so that's all for announcements. I think we can get into the chapter now. One more note, because it's bugging me. The posters are kind of arranged in an uneven manner. It's very heavily balanced on one side, but my plan is to put a shelf in on one side so that I can put up my light up owl. He needs a little spot to go. This was given to me by my kids, so I want him to have a place. And in fact, let me turn him on. He's pretty cool, actually. There we go. Yeah. So he needs a spot. So I will be putting a shelf. He'll go roughly right there to kind of balance things out, right? And then we'll put a few plants up there as well. So look for that in the coming weeks as I round out my background, as we settle into our still fairly new place. We've been here a month now, though. All right, enough chit chat and announcements. Let's get into the chapter for tonight. So we are 41 minutes into a very long chapter. And yeah, just be forewarned, there's a lot of dark stuff coming up. This is the chapter that the narrator claims broke him finally as a narrator, and that's a pretty big thing to do. So some tragedy ahead. Just be forewarned. If this is not something that you feel you're up to tonight, maybe put it aside, put it in a save for later folder, or just skip it altogether. I definitely won't be offended because this is heavy stuff. Heavy stuff indeed. As always, we'll have the closed captionings on. Probably going to bump up the size of the closed captioning since there's no animation to worry about messing up. So we'll get our largest captions possible just to help all of our hearing impaired. I don't know if that's even the correct term for it anymore. Our hard of hearing audience. Or if just you learn better by reading words and listening to the words being spoken at the same time. I know I sure do. So yeah, but we try to be inclusive here on Bread Theory. Anyway, let's get into it.
10 years after Nat Turner's rebellion, there was no sign of black insurrection in the South, but that year, 1841, one incident took place which kept alive the idea of rebellion. Slaves being transported on a ship, the Creole, overpowered the crew, killed one of them, and sailed into the British West Indies, where slavery had been abolished in 1833. England refused to return the slaves. There was much agitation in England against American slavery, and
There's not a big middle finger between colonial powers. Oh, you know that thing that we were okay with till, just a few years before you? Well, we're not going to help you with it now because you guys decided to break away from our country. I mean, ultimately, I'm sure that was the reason for it, but it's still good on them for not, being complicit in more slavery.
this led to angry talk in Congress of war with England, encouraged by Secretary of State Daniel Webster. The Colored People's
That would have
Press
been dumb.
denounced Webster's, quote, bullying position, and recalling the revolution.
It's one thing to fight off an empire on your own soil, especially with the help of another empire. For all the crap that the French get, really, we would not have probably won the Revolutionary War. There would be no, United States of America without help of the French army, who was, basically fighting a proxy war. I don't know how directly they joined in the battle, but besides the point, there's no way that we could have brought war to England at that time. We were not a superpower. We could not have matched their navy, probably. So that's would have been a very foolish war, and perhaps could have broken apart the fledgling United States. Who knows? Maybe it would have worked out for the better. UK definitely has a lot of things that we don't even have. A semblance of universal health care, a much more robust welfare state, multiple parties that actually stand a fighting chance, parliamentary government, which, for all of its flaws and the fact that it's still not a socialist form of government, is still probably a lot better than our form of democracy. It seems a lot more democratic when you have at least the possibility to have more voices in the mix, even if they end up having to, form coalition governments, and the compromise all takes place after the vote has been counted. At least they're, in power, and they have some leverage. So I would take a parliamentary system over the US's form of representative democracy, especially with the god-awful Senate. Not to say that, like the House of Lords is any better than the U.S. Senate, but they seem to have less power than the U.S. Senate does. But maybe, who knows? Maybe that's just my outside position. I'd love for a UKer to set me straight on that.
War and the War of 1812 wrote, quote, "If war be declared, will we fight in defense of a government which denies us the most precious right of citizenship?"
Hey, James, good to have you. So what's going on tonight is probably the bleakest chapter of the book on United States slavery and all of its horrors and atrocities. So buckle in. Come to think of it, James, as a side comment, have you managed to vote or nominate people for the Lefties Awards in Left Signal Boost, the group, or Left Signal Boost TV, the page? I don't think I've seen you. I mean, there's been a lot of nominations, so I may have just overlooked yours. But if you haven't had the chance yet, go and nominate your favorite leftist creators and work of 2022. I left the link there in the chat, so hopefully that works on Twitch. I think it would. Yeah, it looks like it's showing up as a hyperlink on Twitch. So definitely love to have your input. I know you follow quite a few cool leftists, especially now on Twitch. So I'm excited to see who you found to nominate. All right, let's keep going.
"The states in which we dwell have twice availed themselves of our voluntary services and have repaid us with chains and slavery. Shall we a third time kiss the foot that crushes us? If so, we deserve our chains." As the tension grew north and south, blacks became more militant. Frederick Douglass spoke in 1857, quote, "Let me give you a word of the philosophy of reforms. The whole history of the progress of human liberty shows that all concessions yet made to her august claims have been born of struggle. If there is no struggle, there is no progress."
That is right on. That is specifically it. And as much as liberals would like to complain about, say, how BLM chooses to voice their protests, or how football players choose to voice their opinions about the country, there's no progress without great struggle. And by great struggle, there's implied in his words bloodshed. There really has not been progress without a massive backlash, usually violent, towards the change that's being made, because there's a lot of people in power that stand to lose if change happens. Even if it's good for far more people that the change happens, say, ending slavery, there's going to be a violent backlash against it. I mean, that's for all the, well, that's not what really the Civil War was about. No, it was about slavery. I mean, it was explicitly put into the, what do you call them? It wasn't the Articles of Separation. It was the document that basically formed the Confederacy. These states, such as Virginia and many of the states, explicitly said we are doing this because of slavery. And that is why. Wars are fought over economic reasons. Don't be fooled. It is every time over economic reasons. When states go to war, it is because of economy. Either they have a resource that we need, or we are trying to stamp out competition that we don't want. There's no real such thing as a purely ideological war, a war for, as, what's his name? The guy who did The Newsroom. Oh, I should look up that speech at some time. We used to go to war for moral reasons. We used to take moral stands in the world. Did we, though? It took being directly attacked by the Japanese to get us into World War II. Otherwise, we probably would have stuck with appeasement, not sticking our nose in others' businesses. So to say that we were all just altruistic and going in there to stop old Adolf and whatnot, not quite the whole picture. That only became the post hoc rationale for it. And, it's a good thing. I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb, though who knows these days with right-wingers. But I don't think I'm going on too much of a limb to say that it was probably for the best that Germany did not win World War II. But yeah, anyway, let's not go way too far afield here. Let's stick to the subject matter at hand. But that is to say, Douglas is spot on. There's violence inherent in change. Even, the much venerated Martin Luther King Jr. Was not completely a man of peace. He understood that violence was going to be done against him and those like him. It was done against him and those like him. He was assassinated for his struggle for progress. That can't just be discounted. That is part of what makes progress. It's not just politely asking for more rights. And really, it took his assassination to finally push through the Civil Rights Act. There were riots across the country, the likes of which had not been seen until recently. And again, a riot is a political term that maybe shouldn't be used or applied in these circumstances, but there was unease and uprisings against the government because of the assassination of King. And that's what gave the political pressure. That's what ramped up the political pressure enough to push through the Civil Rights Act and actually usher in the Civil Rights era. Wouldn't have happened without that, potentially, or it could have been so just drip, drip, drip slow that we might still be mired in it today had not that happened to such a beloved national figure. Same thing with getting the weekend and the 40-hour work week and many, many other workers' rights. Those all came at the cost of a lot of bloodshed. And not always on the side of those who were, being oppressed, but, they inflicted it as well. We shouldn't just look away because it's distasteful, or because it doesn't align with our pacifistic views. It is just a fact that there's a lot, like I say, there's a lot of people that stand to lose, a lot of very powerful people, I should say, that stand to lose when true progress is made. And so as soon as they catch wind of it happening, they will violently suppress it as much as possible. So even if you don't seek violence, it will come to you if you're actually doing something worthwhile and meaningful in terms of change. That's what happened when the last time the American workers actually organized and executed a real general strike. They rolled in the army immediately. We'll actually learn about that in later chapters in this book. They called out the army. They just, and they were pretty naked with their intentions. They said, you are threatening our way of life by refusing to work for us in our factories as laborers, and us as the capitalist class, the owner class. So we will violently put you down. And that is what happened. But yeah, we'll save that for another time too. We'll just continue on in this chapter right now.
Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. The struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. There were tactical differences between Douglas and William Lloyd Garrison, white abolitionist and editor of The Liberator, differences between black and white abolitionists in general. Blacks were more willing to engage in armed insurrection, but also more ready to use existing political devices, the ballot box, the Constitution, anything to further their cause. They were not as morally absolute in their tactics as the Garrisonians. Moral pressure would not do it alone, the blacks knew. It would take all sorts of tactics, from elections to rebellion. How ever present in the minds of Northern Negroes was the question of slavery is shown by black children in a Cincinnati school, a private school financed by Negroes. The children were responding to the question, quote, "What do you think most about?" unquote. Only 5 answers remain in the records, and all refer to slavery. A 7-year-old child wrote, quote, "Dear schoolmates, we are going next summer to buy a farm and to work part of the day and to study the other part if we live to see it, and come home part of the day to see our mothers and sisters and cousins if we are got any, and see our kind folks, and to be good boys, and when we get a man, to get the poor slaves from bondage. And I am sorry to hear that the boat went down with 200 poor slaves from up the river. Oh, how sorrow I am to hear that. It grieves my heart so that I could faint in 1 minute." White abolitionists did courageous and pioneering work on the lecture platform, in newspapers, in the Underground Railroad. Black abolitionists, less publicized, were the backbone of the anti-slavery movement. Before Garrison published his famous Liberator in Boston in 1831, the first National Convention of Negroes had been held. David Walker had already written his Appeal, and the black abolitionist magazine named Freedom's Journal had appeared. Of the Liberator's first 25 subscribers, most were black. Blacks had to struggle constantly with the unconscious racism of white abolitionists. They also had to insist on their own independent voice. Douglass wrote for the Liberator, but in 1847 started his own newspaper in Rochester, North Star, which led to a break with Garrison. In 1854, a conference of Negroes declared, quote, "It is emphatically our battle. No one else can fight it for us. Our relations to the anti-slavery movement must be and are changed. Instead of depending upon it, we must lead it."
Well, look who it is. We have a special guest on,
You got a special guest.
which I'm sure James will be quite excited about.
Oh my gosh, you gotta help me with this. My back is
Oh,
not
yep,
happy.
sure.
Okay.
I cannot just jump up. I'm coming to help.
Hurt my back. I fell in the snowdrift 3 times.
3 times? Just trying to get that van out?
No. On Friday.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we attempted to do a it sounded really cool. It was a full moon hike at our local nature center, and what they didn't tell you ahead of time was that the path they were choosing was one of the ones that was not very well maintained.
It wasn't a paved path. It
was not a
like
paved
the
path.
prairie itself, but because it's snow, you could just stomp it down.
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of snow in the past week, so it was stomped down a little bit, but like still, you veer an inch off and your foot goes down like a foot and a half into the snowbank. So that was
And
not
then
fun.
You go down. But get in, losers. We're gonna seize the means of production.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about slavery tonight, so
Let's get out, guys.
yeah. Let's see. James says.
Hi, James.
You redeemed talk about pepperoni rolls? Why is it not coming up? Oh shoot! It didn't tell me. I'm gonna have. Man, I have to figure out how to make Stream Elements alert that to me, because it did not tell me. I'm glad you finally saw that I have now updated my channel points as well. So pepperoni rolls. What are we gonna say about them? We still haven't tried them. I think one of these days we gotta just bite the bullet.
I'll probably just make some because Zach's not producing any kombucha for me to make my sourdough bread.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus while we talk about it. Jeez. I am so sorry.
Listen, folks, I make a pretty mean sourdough loaf, and this man hasn't been making kombucha, so we don't make no sourdough.
Thwerp.
But I can get another thing of yeast and make some. You know what? James. Okay, so when you make a pepperoni roll, it's just pepperoni and cheese inside of a garlic bread? Is that what this is?
Yeah, what is the authentic West Virginia pepperoni roll? Let's see if we
Yeah.
can find a recipe for it before we get back into
Maybe I'll try it this
look.
weekend.
the
I feel like I owe it to
rolls.
you.
Let's see, West Virginia pepperoni rolls. Should we try the Soccer Mom blog?
They look like balls.
Yeah, those look like balls. Like balls.
Okay, click it.
I'm looking.
What if we got the cupping pepperoni?
That'd be pretty good.
Okay, so it is pepperoni and mozzarella. This girl don't put no seasoning on her bread.
Well, I mean, would you look at a woman that white and assume she likes seasoning? I think salt's probably too spicy for her. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
You were gonna say
Better that I
something.
don't say anything.
Say it.
So, the classic Southern recipe includes flavorful slices of pepperoni and gooey mozzarella cheese baked together inside a fluffy roll made with homemade pizza dough.
Oh.
Interesting. Now we have her 5-paragraph essay talking about how she came to these lovely delights. I really dislike a lot of cooking blogs. It's like, put the story afterward. Most people are coming just for the recipe.
Also, they list the ingredients,
Uh-huh.
but they don't list measurements, which is also
This is
really
just
annoying.
no. I bet they do. You will need.
No.
This is assemble these ingredients,
Listen.
and then we come to 10 minutes. Need the dough. Wait. Okay, I'm looking. Yeah, you know what? I don't think it does show measurements, huh?
Like,
That's so annoying.
I don't have time for this. I'm gonna make a recipe website and I'm gonna put all this shit up on top,
Yeah,
up front.
right in front.
And then I'm gonna share my little hot takes with you on the bottom if you feel so compelled to
Right,
read it.
if you really want some extracurricular activities. That looks just like a hot dog inside.
It looks like half a butt cheek.
Let's not make these ones. Although, look, they have ingredients right up front, at least.
There's no seasoning at all. You don't need to put sugar in your bread.
Well,
No.
isn't it for the yeast, though?
You don't need sugar in your bread.
Okay. You're the baker between us. Really, hillbilly? Oh man, now I gotta go to West Virginia to get authentic hillbilly pepperoni rolls.
James, I like this recipe, but I'm gonna have to fix it up a little bit because she doesn't put. How can you make pepperoni rolls without Italian seasoning or at least some oregano and garlic powder?
Maybe they're just hoping that the pepperoni sticks themselves do all the heavy lifting in terms of seasoning.
Oh no, we don't need to just rely upon the crutch of pepperoni. Plus, you're not gonna get pepperoni in every bite.
I don't know. For those of you interested, here's what we found. It's on the Cooking Channel TV, so at least they know what people are coming here for. It's for the recipe, not the. And then I went backpacking through the Peruvian Delta, and lo and behold, I met someone from West
I took some
Virginia,
Delta
and they
9.
told me how to make pepperoni rolls. And I'll get to that in a minute. But first, we got to talk about our ayahuasca journey that we took together. And la 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 la. Yeah, it's like just cut to the chase.
Come on, make it snappy, fuckers. I don't got time for this. I work full time. I don't have time to read your goddamn
Right. Yeah.
15-paragraph essay,
Right.
short novel about your fucking life.
Right.
I want to know what I need and how much of it I need.
Yeah.
Okay? How to mix it. Does the order matter when you're baking? It does.
That's right. Get over yourself, Devin E.
That's Zach's generic lady name.
I did not coin that. I got that from a comedy show.
No,
whose name
you
escapes me.
made that.
Yes, I'm sure. Why not? Who's gonna challenge me?
Beckany.
Beckany and Jimothy.
Sharinda.
Sure.
Yeah. James, I'm gonna make him better.
Cool. All right. Does that satisfy your 10,000 channel points? Because that's what happened. I have channel points now. So if people watch long enough, they get channel points. They can redeem them for things.
Like cool merch or pepperoni rolls?
No, I can't make it monetary at this point because I don't got that kind of dough.
But if you share with your friends
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how that was a
and
pun.
more people subscribe,
Let's see. No, that's not it. Rewards. Here it is. Channel points. So this is what I have so far.
breadcrumbs.
No. Enable
Nah.
channel points. Oh, my currency is breadcrumbs.
Wow.
And here's my rewards. So far, I just have say something nice and talk about pepperoni rolls. So if we're watching some ghoul, that's the challenge, to say something nice about them. And then just the generic ones: highlight my message, unlock a random sub emote, send a message in sub only mode,
And if
choose
you
an emote to unlock and modify.
if
Well, I don't
you
even
try
allow
really hard, you can find something nice to say about all kinds of people.
that. I do not wish death upon them.
I bet Ben Shapiro flosses.
He does have some pearly whites, so there you go.
Tucker
We'll keep that in the
Carlson
back
probably
pocket.
does his taxes.
All right. Let's move back into the chapter. Are you ready?
Yeah?
All right. Here we go.
Unquote. Certain black women faced the triple hurdle of being abolitionists in a slave society, of being black among white reformers, and of being women in a reform movement dominated by men. When Sojourner Truth rose to speak in 1853 in New York City at the 4th National Women's Rights Convention, it all came together. There was a hostile mob in the hall, shouting, jeering, threatening. She said, quote, "I know that it feels a kind of hissing and tickling like to see a colored woman get up and tell you about things and women's rights. We have all been thrown down so low that nobody thought we'd ever get up again, but we will come up again. And now I'm here. We'll have our rights. See if we don't. And you can't stop us from them. See if you can."
Unfortunately, the first wave of feminism that was all about women's suffrage, that is the right to vote, was expressly non-intersectional. They basically threw all the black women under the bus, metaphorically this time, and just so they could champion their own rights to vote as white women. And they eventually won. We were one of the last of the developed countries in the world to give women the right to vote. Yay us. Again, there's that super conservatism that just lingers on throughout American history somehow. And yeah, it took until much longer for in fact, let's look up a timeline right now. Voting, yeah, let's do history of voting rights in the U.S. So unfortunately, Sojourner Truth would not live to see the day that she could vote. Voting rights, a short history. Can you not play with the plants? That's very loud and distracting. Thank you. You can clip them later.
But I'm right here.
All right, let's share this tab quickly instead. So here's a short history of voting rights.
2020, women were allowed to vote for 100 years.
Some women.
White women's.
Yep. Yeah, so in the 1700s, America granted the right to vote to a very narrow subset of society, white male landowners. And it would seem incredible that people that still believe in that sort of thing aren't completely marginalized in U.S. discourse, but the likes of, well, I would suspect Matt Walsh, if you were being really honest, Nick Fuentes, and others of their ilk, do actually want to roll us all the way back to that point where only, you know what? I believe even Ben Shapiro would be in favor of that if it really came down to it. They would love just, wealthy, landowning white men to have the right to vote, and everyone else can kick rocks, basically.
I will not.
So even as barriers to voting began receding in the ensuing decades, many southern states enacted new ones, such as poll taxes and literacy taxes, aimed at keeping the vote out of the hands of African American men.
Literacy tests.
Tests, yes. Excuse me. I guess I need a literacy test.
Well, we can work on that tomorrow when you go to school.
Okay. Over time, voting rights became a bipartisan priority as people worked at all levels to enact constitutional amendments and laws expanding access to votes based on race and ethnicity, gender, disability, age, and other factors. Oh, they're just going to skip ahead to 1965. Took major steps to curtail voter suppression, a new era of push and pull on voting rights. Voting age reduced to 18 from 21, and the enshrinement of voting protections for language minorities and people with disabilities.
Do you think people who couldn't read because they were blind were read the ballot? Or
It sounds
did they
like-
just not vote?
From the context here, it sounds like until that point they were just not allowed to vote. If you were not able to, look at printed words and recite them.
But you can't help if you can't see.
Okay. Yeah, right. But they probably didn't want those people to vote. So, by the end, or during the early part of the 19th century, that is to say the 1800s, state legislatures began to limit the property requirement for voting. Later, during Reconstruction, Congress passed the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, which ensured that people could not be denied the right to vote because of their race. The amendment was ratified in the states in 1870. However, in the decades that followed, many states, particularly the South, used a range of barriers such as poll taxes and literacy tests to deliberately reduce voting among African American men. So I stand corrected somewhat. Apparently, black people were allowed to vote, probably in the lifetime of Sojourner Truth, but still not black women, because women were not allowed to vote until 1920. Early 20th century, women still were only able to vote in a handful of states, and after decades of organizing and activism, women nationwide won the right to vote. With the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. It took an amendment to the U.S. Constitution for that right. Southern states ramp up barriers to voting. Martin Luther King
They still do it
leading a
now.
march on Selma to the state capitol in Montgomery. Yes, they're trying to claw all those rights back again. The struggle, especially in places like Georgia, where they're like, oh, we can't possibly have Democrats getting elected. We can't admit that we are a majority Democratic state. We're the South. Anyway, so skipping ahead again to the 1960s. So they're trying to fight against literacy tests and poll taxes, English language requirements, and more. All measures that had been used to suppress the vote for immigrants and low-income people. Yeah, the people in power do not like any form of democracy because it gives power to people that they detest and that they feel they are inherently better than. So here we go. Here's that violence finding people, whether or not they like it. First march in Selma, Alabama, to the state capitol of Montgomery to spotlight the issue of black voting rights was brutally attacked by police and others on the day that came to be known as Bloody Sunday. After the march was cut short, a throng of thousands finally made the journey, arriving in Montgomery on March 24th and drawing nationwide attention to the issue.
Issue.
The issue, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Camisha.
So in 1964, Finally, the 24th Amendment targets poll taxes. Man sells poll tax pledges in 1947. Gross. Why
They'll
is he
probably
s-
bring it back because
why,
they're bored.
why is he selling busts of Roosevelt? It looks like. That's bizarre.
Well, they were working on a 4-year thing where they were going to put each. No.
So finally, 1965, the Voting Rights Act passes Congress. 1971, young people win the right to vote. So voting until that point was 21 and older. The 26th Amendment prohibited states and federal government from using age as a reason to deny the vote to anyone 18 years of age and over.
Hey, can you pause a sec? Sorry.
Yeah.
How many people do we have watching right now? Because I have a controversial statement.
What's
It's
it?
not controversial by us by any means, but
Looks like it's just James right now.
hey, James. If you are 15 years old and you have a job and you're being taxed, should you be able to vote? I knew it.
Yeah, right. If you're going to be taxation without representation, kind
One
of
of
makes sense.
One of my in-laws proposed that to me, and I thought it was so smart.
Yeah,
They're so smart.
for sure. So it wasn't until 1975 that we get protections for language minorities. So that would be instructions in languages other than English. And in 1982, new voting protections for people with disabilities.
It took till 1942.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross. But I won't even talk about disabled people in this state right now because
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
So Congress was required required states to take steps to make voting more accessible for the elderly and disabled. Motor voter becomes law in 93. Oh, okay. So you can register to vote at the DMV. Gotcha. Oh, the hanging chads.
Oh, and now it looks like they had to hire that guy from Sideways to read all the ballots.
Oh, Paul Giamatti? That's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah. That does look very Paul Giamattian.
If we can't get Paul Giamatti to do it, they don't count.
Yeah.
It's cold in here.
Yeah. Maybe it's because you're wearing shorts.
You're wearing shorts.
You're just one of those year-round shorts Minnesotans. And so now we're into more of the present day where it's been fighting voter suppression.
Scroll back up a minute. It's Mike Pence.
2016 presidential election and claims of fraud. Oh, God. Yep. So that's where we're at. They're feeling threatened and they're trying to take away voting rights because Republicans know that, especially in national elections, they are just never getting beat. They have not won the popular vote since Bush did during the Iraq War, which, probably gave them a bit of a bump, to be honest. The fact they were in the middle of a war. But since then, and for the 2 terms before him, for his first election and for Clinton both times, the Republican has not won the national popular vote at all. So they know that their policies are unpopular, and pretty much the only way to keep solidifying your power at that point is to make it harder and harder for democracy to expand. You have to
AKA,
contract it in.
you're a giant toddler, and the only way to get your way is to force it.
Yep. To force the vote. Yeah. I almost thought about doing a video about force the vote last night. I don't know if you were even aware of that harebrained campaign. It's probably better just left untalked about for now. But
Yeah.
I agree with your
Yep.
opinion, James. Very good.
See, James is smart.
All right, yes, he is. I would never say otherwise. Let's move on in the chapter.
You may hiss as much as you like, but it is coming. I am sitting among you to watch, and every once in a while I will come out and tell you what time of night it is. After Nat Turner's violent uprising and Virginia's bloody repression, the security system inside the South became tighter. Perhaps only an outsider could hope to launch a rebellion. It was such a person, a white man of ferocious courage and determination, John Brown,
Oh, I
whose
thought you were
wild
laughing.
scheme it was to
No.
seize the federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry, Virginia.
Oh, John Brown, pretty cool guy. Talk about, living your values. But I don't want to take away. I'm sure Zinn is going to describe it better than I could. So
And then set off a revolt
Continue
of
on.
slaves through the South. Harriet Tubman, 5 feet tall.
I guess that was it. So John Brown goes and seizes a bunch of munitions at Harper's Ferry, leads a slave rebellion. They liberate all kinds of slaves, slaughter all kinds of slave masters, and
Oh, that's cool. I
he
didn't know
didn't. He did not stop until they captured and hung him. So, pretty cool, pretty fly for a white guy.
He's
at the
Genghis Khan in it.
I wouldn't call him
conquering.
that. What? He
No.
wasn't conquering anything. He was liberating people. You're
Oh.
making a stretch for a pun, and it's not there. I'm sorry.
Better to try.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, yeah, he's pretty cool. I wish Zinn had said a little bit more about him, but we'll circle back to him another time, I'm sure.
Some of her teeth missing, a veteran of countless secret missions piloting blacks out of slavery, was involved with John Brown and his plans. But sickness prevented her from joining him. Frederick Douglass, too, had met with Brown. He argued against the plan from the standpoint of its chances of success, but he admired the ailing man of 60, tall, gaunt, white-haired. Douglass...
That's right, 60 years old. No excuse. Can't be like, oh, I'm too old for activism anymore. Think of John Brown. 60 years old and ailing. He still got out of bed and went and slaughtered, racist plantation owners.
I mean, I plan on being a menace to society at 60, so
There you go.
why aren't you?
Those are senior goals.
Yeah.
was right.
I'm going to be more of a pain in the butt than to just landlords and Target.
Oh man, those last landlords. Let's not go on a tangent on that right now, because we could be here the rest of the night.
The plan would not work. The
No,
local
'cause there's just
militia,
so much
joined
to
by
say about how
100
terrible they were.
Marines under the command of Robert E. Lee surrounded the insurgents. Although his men were dead or captured, John Brown refused to surrender. He barricaded himself in a small brick building near the gate of the armory. The troops battered down a door. A Marine lieutenant moved in and struck Brown with his sword. Wounded, sick, he was interrogated. W.E.B. Du Bois, in his book, John Brown, writes, quote, "Picture the situation. An old and blood-bespattered man, half dead from the wounds inflicted but a few hours before. A man lying in the cold and dirt, without sleep for 55 nerve-wracking hours, without food for nearly as long, with the dead bodies of his 2 sons almost before his eyes, the piled corpses of his 7 slain comrades near and afar, a wife and a bereaved family listening in vain, and a lost cause, the dream of a lifetime, lying dead in his heart." Lying there, interrogated by the governor of Virginia, Brown said, quote, "You had better, all you people at the South, prepare yourselves for a settlement of this question. You may dispose of me very easily. I am nearly disposed of now, but this question is still to be settled. This Negro question, I mean, the end of that is not yet." Du Bois appraises Brown's action. Quote, "If his foray was the work of a handful of fanatics led by a lunatic and repudiated by the slaves to a man, then the proper procedure would have been to ignore the incident, quietly punish the worst offenders, and either pardon the misguided leader or send him to an asylum. While insisting that the raid was too hopelessly and ridiculously small to accomplish anything, the state nevertheless spent $250,000 to punish the invaders, stationed from 1,000 to 3,000 soldiers in the vicinity, and threw the nation into turmoil.
There you go. When you're actually doing something of consequence, and the ruling class is actually getting scared, they will not hesitate to just come down full force on you. So, it's the sad but unfortunate truth that if you're going to actually try for real change, you have to accept that you might be met with violence. You likely will be met with violence if it's actually threatening to the ruling class.
That's scary.
It is scary. It is scary.
I don't want no violence.
I don't either. I'd much rather they just let us be and allow us to forge our own way together and whatever.
You
But
can't have the workers uniting, otherwise how will the work get done?
that's right. What are you going to have? The managers do it? I'm sure you all heard about what happened with John Deere when they tried to have the management take over for the striking workers. Had like a dozen calls to the ambulance in the first half of the day because managers didn't know anything about how to run the equipment to manufacture the tractors or whatever it is they were manufacturing for John Deere.
That's funny and sad because I feel like that's such a commonplace thing. It's like, in order to get into management, you have to be the least competent
Right.
person at your job.
Yeah. So if management is often so incompetent and really couldn't run things on their own, what does that say about the people that just own stuff? It just makes so clearly a sham of all the myth making around the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezos of the world.
Bezos.
Bezos.
Jeffrey.
Jeff Beeschurger.
Wow.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah, you gotta wonder, are all these so-called great men of history all that great, or did they just talk a good game about themselves?
History.
Yeah, right.
That's like Real Men of Genius in a
Roman
commercial.
genius. Yeah, and it's basically their accomplishments, when you actually look at them, are about the same as those, real men of genius from the Budweiser commercials.
But if you had a Budweiser shirt, you'd be real neat.
The great inventor and boy genius, Elon Musk, only has patents on two rather inconsequential parts of the Tesla. Nothing to do with the motor. One has to do with the power coupling that you hook your charger from the charger station into your car. And the other thing has to do with part of the door.
Oh.
And he's only one of the half dozen people listed on the patent. So, being that he bought his way into the company and has lied about being the founder ever since, it doesn't take a great leap to assume that, he was the kid who begged the rest of the group to put his name on the final project, even though he goofed off the entire time and, played Call of Duty while everyone else actually did the real work.
And then
But he's such a genius and should be running the entire world. Look how great he's doing with Twitter. He can't even run a social media company, and people want him to run the entire world.
I can.
Or even like run for president or something. Like, oh my god. Yeah, self-made. Bought his way into PayPal. Claimed to have found it. Just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Maybe he was self-made in that it's a very difficult thing to get into daddy's good graces.
That's true.
And he has to maintain this positive relationship with daddy to ensure that daddy will still help him.
I am.
And that he's daddy's favorite boy.
I'm discounting the struggles that the poor little rich boys go through to win the admiration and affection and money of father.
Because we all know how rich men don't have time for things like little boys.
That's true.
So He must have been a very special,
Must have been
very good
just
little
a hard
boy.
upbringing that made him the wonder, the Tony Stark that we real life Tony Stark that we see today.
Instead of a glowing heart, he has 12 glowing children.
Not following that reference, but okay.
Because the kids are his heart.
Okay,
Because he's different.
I see.
He's different.
He's different.
He's not like the other
Oh,
guys.
he's not like other guys. James says buying companies that sell screwdrivers and carrying screws in your pocket are not the same thing. That's true. that is it's a indisputable truth. Anyway, yeah. So never buy into the myth that people at the top have worked their way up or deserve to be there or are just that much more smart and
Listen, they
and
don't
business savvy than you.
they don't work their way up. They claw their way up.
Claw their way up.
Like a saber-toothed tiger up the side of Mount Everest.
Right.
And they didn't give up.
The thing is, even if that were true in some cases, which it's not, like you look at virtually every famous millionaire and billionaire in history, and they've inherited or bought or, taken out tons of loans to start companies, but then didn't actually get any return on their investment until they had a ton of employees to exploit. So at the very least, you're getting your wealth by sitting at the top.
Not sitting.
And you're basically taking the profit. It's just a different way of requiring tribute from your employees. It's just that you write it into their contract that they only get this much of the product of the value that they create. And you just get the rest. That's just the part they don't say. So, what you looking up?
Number of billionaires who actually came from nothing.
The thing, it's always came from nothing. That's such a relative term to begin with. It's like Trump saying, "Oh, I only got a small loan of $2 million from my father to start my business empire," which he lost entirely. He went entirely bankrupt, but he clawed his way back. No, he treaded on his name and conned enough people into.
Guy La Liberté was a fire eater before he founded Cirque du Soleil.
Cool. And now sits at the top of a company with a bunch of employees beneath him, and that's how he made his money.
Yeah. He's worth $1.2 billion.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, let's continue on. I want to finish just a little bit more.
All right. Well, this
We'll get
chair's
to a good
killing me.
stopping point. Well, we'll get to the next passage and then we'll stop it.
Oh.
In John Brown's last written statement,
We'll finish
in
the thing
prison
about
before he was hanged,
John
he
Brown.
said, quote, "I, John Brown, am quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away but with blood." Ralph Waldo Emerson, not an activist himself, said of the execution of John Brown, quote, "He will make the gallows holy as the cross." Of the 22 men in John Brown's striking force, 5 were black. 2 of these were killed on the spot, 1 escaped, and 2 were hanged by the authorities. Before his execution, John Copeland wrote to his parents, quote, "Remember that if I must die, I die in trying to liberate a few of my poor and oppressed people from my condition of servitude, which God in his holy writ has hurled his most bitter denunciations against. I am not terrified by the gallows. I imagine that I hear you, and all of you, mother, father, sisters, and brothers, say no. There is not a cause for which we, with less sorrow, could see you die. Believe me when I tell you that though shut up in prison and under sentence of death, I have spent more happy hours here, and I would almost as lief die now as at any time, for I feel that I am prepared to meet my Maker." John Brown was executed by the state of Virginia with the approval of the national government. It was the national government which, while weakly enforcing the law ending the slave trade, sternly enforced the laws providing for the return of fugitives to slavery.
Of course.
It was the national government that, in Andrew Jackson's administration, collaborated with the South to keep abolitionist literature out of the mails in the southern states. It was the Supreme Court of the United States that declared in 1857 that the slave Dred Scott could not sue for his freedom because he was not a person, but property. Such a national government would never accept an end to slavery by rebellion.
All right, that's the end of the section on John Brown. So we are closing in on the halfway mark for this chapter. But we still got a long way to go. At least we're ending on a more positive note this time. The idea that the momentum is shifting against slavery finally, once and for all. We've seen the big push towards the war that ended up ending it. Mostly, big asterisks there in the 13th Amendment. But yeah, disallowing chattel hereditary slavery at the very least. So, hey.
Hey.
Yeah,
Sorry, this chair is extremely painful.
that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I think we'll wrap it up for tonight then, because it's getting close to 9 o'clock anyway.
And I'm geriatric.
Yeah. So, thank you, Amanda, for being on the show.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
You're welcome anytime. I have to start charging you for appearances.
You should. What's your rate going to be?
5 hugs.
5 hugs? All right.
Fine.
I think you could pick something like, go out to a restaurant you like or something. You could have had it all.
You say rolling in the deep, and I swear to God,
I was gonna.
I know you were. Good night, James. I hope you have sweet dreams of savory pepperoni rolls.
Yeah, hopefully you don't dream about the chapter we're reading, because that's pretty brutal stuff. Thanks for hanging with us, though, James. I do very much appreciate it. Yeah, not really enough people to raid, per se.
But you could recommend out.
But we can recommend a channel. So we're going to recommend Proudly Radical. I really like this guy.
I think your brother should make a channel and call it Radicoin.
That's true.
That'd be so fun.
So go check out Proudly Radical on Twitch. I'll be nominating him for a Lefty Award for Best Streamer of the Year. And get your votes in, though. I'm gonna link it one last time in the chat.
Because y'all need to be here. You need to be ready to watch. Because if I get a better chair, I'm going to stay the whole time.
And you need to get more of your nominations in. Be thinking about like best video, best dunk, best movie, stuff like that.
I'm going to nominate me.
For what?
Best co-host.
Best co-host.
Nothing about that felt good.
No.
I have marks. I can feel them.
Aww.
Guess what, guys? You turn 38 and your body decides it hates you. Even though you feed it all sorts of fruits and vegetables all day, it still decides you're a bitch.
That's true. So here's another place you can go to cast your vote. Just go directly to Left Signal Boost TV's page on Facebook. Do you want to make a little more noise as you leave? Yeah, thanks.
Want me to slam the door?
No thanks. Yes, Epic Prawn has also been nominated for a Best Streamer of the Year award, which I was pleased to see happen. But here's another place you can go. Just check out the pinned post there at Left Signal Boost TV on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Left Signal Boost TV. And then I guess that's going to be it for now. May or may not stream sometime later in the week. I haven't really decided yet because I didn't do it last night. So maybe I'll do the stream I was planning on last night on Wednesday, Thursday. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks for joining. Until next time, be well, and yeah, don't be afraid to learn about history. See ya.